What's happening, fight fans? Ryan Thomas here, live on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Very excited for today's show. This is a big one. This is LFA 125. This is the Fighter Interviews show. I will have four fighters from the main card of LFA 125 right here on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, starting off at 12:30 with Salomon Renfro joining me on the show in about 5 minutes. I wanted to hop on here 5 minutes prior to Salomon hopping on here to provide everybody with that information. I was able to have not one, not two, not three, but four fighters from the main card. I want to give a shout out to Christian Printup as well as Ryan Bevins for contacting me with these fighters to interview them heading into one of the big bouts of their career, the next big bout of their career, I should say. Legacy Fighting Alliance, awesome organization, founded by Ed Soares. They have so many awesome fighters on that roster, and they have so many awesome fighters that they have discovered over the course of the company's history. One of those fighters, of course, Sage Northcutt along the way, who made his way to the UFC. And Legacy Fighting Alliance, I see Legacy Fighting Alliance as the premier organization as far as a breeding ground for MMA fighters. I look at it in comparison to, the NCAA of MMA. It is truly a very legitimate developmental organization where some of the best fighters in the world that you might not have heard of yet can make their way, make their climb, make their case for the next opportunity. And I'm going to be talking to Solomon Renfro, as well as Ashley Nichols, as well as Lovith Young and Michael Stack on the show today about those opportunities that they seek. Where do they see their careers heading with a win on February 25th, next Friday, as Legacy Fighting Alliance hosts their 125th event at Seneca Niagara Casino in Niagara Falls, New York. I, of course, will be in attendance. I, of course, am super pumped up. I, of course, am super excited for this episode of the show. So I wanted to hop on here and provide a little bit of an introduction to this podcast. This is a MMA podcast show as well as a Buffalo Bills podcast show, but we'll be talking all MMA today with the four fighters. You see the logo on the top right. That is the Thomas Take Sports Podcast Combat Sports logo, the MMA icon, if you will, that was developed by yours truly. So I'm really looking forward to having Salomon on. The structure of mixed martial arts has changed so much over the course of the last, 10, 15 years. There is no sport that has grown the way that mixed martial arts has grown. I've never seen anything like it. I don't think we've seen anything like it in my generation's lifetime. And I don't think even like my dad's generation or my grandfather's generation has really seen anything quite like it, to have this rise of a sport that, 20, 25 years ago, not many people were really giving this sport the credit that it deserved and not really looking at these fighters the way that they should. And now these fighters are given the proper respect by guys like me and by people like you who tune into the fights each and every fight card. There's, UFC Fight Pass, where this fight card will be posted, will be broadcasted live on UFCFightPass.com. So this is a huge opportunity for a fighter like Solomon Renfro to state his case that he belongs in the big show. I'm looking forward to talking to him about that. Ashley Nichols, she's a Muay Thai fighter that transitioned to mixed martial arts. Michael Stack, one of the young up-and-coming prospects in the MMA's featherweight division of 145 pounds. And then Lovith Young, she is taking on Jacqueline Amorim for the LFA strawweight world championship. So to have the opportunity to interview a former, Muay Thai fighter transitioning to mixed martial artist, to have the opportunity to interview Salomon Renfro, who I've followed for quite some time along the way. I'm greatly looking forward to Salomon hopping on with me here in just a moment, but plenty of awesome questions that I prepared for Salomon within this podcast episode, and we'll be getting right to it momentarily. From the company structure of, the UFC's rise, to see these other companies make and pave their own way, it's really exciting, and I'm super excited more than anything to have the chance to attend an event once again representing the sport of mixed martial arts, because I think mixed martial arts is the most pure form of sport that there is. One person enters the cage against another, mano a mano. It is the team atmosphere is in preparation for a fight, but the actual fight itself, it really falls on you. That's what I loved about wrestling when I wrestled back in the day, and that's what I love about combat sports in general. You're either stepping into the ring one-on-one, stepping into the octagon one-on-one. It's all on you. It's all on you. At the end of the day, whatever happens, whatever takes place is all on you. So with that being said, I feel very pumped up for this fight card. As I mentioned, LFA 125. We'll go down the fight card just to give everybody a brief overview of the fight card itself. Plenty of awesome fights on this card that I'm really looking forward to, of course, for obvious reasons, not only due to the fact that I'm interviewing some fighters on the card on this show, but due to the fact that these fights drastically impact the next step for the majority of these fighters on this card. They're right on the bubble of potentially being within the Ultimate Fighting Championship or continuing to pave their way in LFA, inching closer to that opportunity. Anytime you have a title fight featuring two of the baddest strawweights in the world with Jacqueline Norum and Loveth Young at 115 pounds, this is a fight that has been brewing for quite some time, and for LFA to finally be able to put it together and to deliver it to the home audience, my home of Western New York, I'm very excited for this. Adam Fujit is the fighter that Solomon Renfro will be taking on. And Salomon Renfro is joining me right now on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Solomon, thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I think I got you muted. I think you're muted.
Hello?
I'm not hearing you there.
Hey, can you hear me now? No?
Try
1 second.
Pop him back on. Alrighty, let's see. I saw him. He was there. He's probably just setting it up. So,
Hello?
I still can't hear you there, buddy.
Hello?
Sorry about that.
Still can't hear me? Man.
Here, I'll remove you and I'll put you back in.
Okay.
Yeah, I still can't try this. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can't hear you yet. I wonder why. Try it without the headphones. That might help.
Yeah, I had it without the headphones.
Yeah, because it says your mic isn't muted. So it's not muted on my end.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let me here's what I'll do, Salman. I'll remove you out of it and then I'll put you back in. Sound good?
Okay. Yeah.
Sound good. Yeah, just join with that link that you have there that was sent to you.
Gotcha.
So yeah, sometimes there are audio technical difficulties. That's a part of the day and age that we're living in. Hopefully I can get Solomon on. That would be great. That's what we're hoping for. That's what you guys are here for. That's what I'm most looking forward to. Of course, I'm looking forward to all the interviews that I will have on the show today. But Solomon's a guy that I've been following for quite some time. Haven't had the pleasure of meeting him in person quite yet, but I look forward to doing that. Hopefully after the fight Saturday, as he's celebrating a big win against Adam Fujit. Looking forward to that. We got Solomon coming on here. Hopefully in the near future. I'm not quite sure why the audio was funny on his end, but we'll figure it out.
Can you hear me?
Let's do this here.
Still no sound.
There you go. I got you. We're good. We're
Okay,
good.
good.
You can hear me? All right, we're good. I can hear you now. I don't know why that was.
All right, that was weird.
How's it going, buddy? Thanks for joining me on the show today. I really appreciate it, Solomon.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So I've followed your career for a long time, really since it started. You were somebody that caught my attention just based on your athleticism. More than anything, I'd say your work ethic in this sport has not gone unnoticed. It's a part of the reason why you are where you are right now in your career. I want to talk to you about just the overall career to date that you have had. And I want to start off by asking you what caught my attention about you is you've said this in a few interviews, but I want to go back to the beginning of your first memory dipping into combat sports that you had. Your first memory was a pair of boxing gloves. So what was it as a kid that captivated your attention about combat sports, whether it be boxing and then eventually mixed martial arts? So what was it in particular that caught your attention?
Hey, hold on 1 second. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Let me put this on Do Not Disturb.
Sure.
Okay. Hey, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Yep.
I can't hear you, though.
You can't hear me now? I wonder
Still no sound.
I wonder why. Yeah, because I can hear you. I got everything all set on my end.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
I can't hear you. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Let me let me do.
Let's try it one more time.
Yep.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Yep. Yes, we're having some technical difficulties here. Never fun on the show, but we were good, we weren't good. We'll figure it out. But yeah, this is I got a lot of questions for him that I'm looking forward to asking him. We were just getting started with the interview, but we'll make it happen. We'll make it right. So Salomon Renfro rejoining me on the show momentarily here. I'm hoping that he doesn't have any audio issues on his end. Man, there we go.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
All right, awesome.
You can hear me?
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah. So so just talk to me a little bit about, the beginning of how your love for combat sports started.
Yeah, like you mentioned, my first memory is a boxing glove, a red glove, and after that it's like a random dog or something like that. So that's like my first memory. My dad got me into the sport at a young age. My dad used to fight, and I mean, since I can remember, we're always like watching films, watching videos, watching fights, watching documentaries on not just obviously a lot of boxing, but not just boxers, like Muay Thai fighters, wrestlers, jiu-jitsu, like everything. My dad was fascinated with it, and I guess it kind of got passed down to me.
So was your dad training and him fighting and competing, was that something that you wanted to do that because your dad did it, or was it because you wanted to do that to make your dad proud? What was it just the motivation within that kind of got you started too?
Yes and no, I guess. Like as a child, what child doesn't, if your dad's around at the time, what child doesn't want to be like their dad?
Right.
And then my dad went to prison, and I guess fighting was the only thing that I had that reminded me of him in a way,
Right.
But at the same time, I developed such a love for it too. I really don't remember a time where I didn't love combat sports.
And with that, obviously coming, being the fact that you're a big combat sports fan as well as a fighter, who was like the one fighter that really caught your attention, in the younger years as you developed into a fighter eventually?
I mean, obviously, like I look up to Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, even Bruce Lee to a certain extent. My first like MMA fight that I remember being like, okay, this is cool. I really want to do this. I watched GSP. I was watching George St. Pierre. So
That's the man right there. Would you say that would you have a GOAT, a GOAT? I know you have a lot of self-belief that you are the GOAT. You have that self-belief within you that you are the GOAT, but within saying that, you kind of have to have the saying that real recognizes real, right? Like, who's the one GOAT fighter in your mind that you try to emulate within your training?
I can't really say there's a guy I try to emulate. With me, I look at all the great fighters, and even not the great, even like the average ones that do certain things really, really great. I pay attention to all those things, and I take what I can take from each, and I just shake it all up in a box, and I make the best Solomon Renfro. But if I could say like who's the one fighter who I think is a GOAT right now, it would be a tie between Demetrius Johnson and John Jones. But Demetrius Johnson just lost that fight in ONE FC, so I mean, just based on performance alone, it's hard not to say it's John Jones. We all love the Khabibs of the world and other guys, but I mean, we know what John Jones did. He ran through all the light heavyweights, in like the prime era when like light heavyweight was like the marquee division of the UFC. John Jones came in at 23 years old and just took over.
And he did it in different eras too. Like, he beat the yesteryear era, he beat his era, and he's notched wins against the current crop of light heavyweights as he's moving up to heavyweight. Hopefully we get to see him in there soon. I'm dying to see him at heavyweight, as are you. I know that, being as big a fan of the sport as you are, as well as a fighter, partaking in the sport. But in which specific areas along your MMA journey have you seen your game evolve the most? Following you, you're constantly traveling, you're constantly trying to find, you have your close-knit team, but you're constantly trying to find the next, best thing to make your game just this much better each and every fight. What specific areas have you seen your game evolve the most over the last, 3-4 years or so?
I guess the biggest thing, obviously, like, everything's growing when it comes to wrestling, to striking. Everything's going to continue to grow, make huge jumps. But I would say the biggest thing is my timing. My timing has been great. That's how I'm finding these great shots. Like, yeah, I hit hard. But even when you watch my last fight with Johnny Parsons, I timed it off the kick. He kicked, I fired back. Like, this is all just a timing thing. And I would say timing and distance are probably the biggest things that I've increased on. I started to really work on. And then also, doing a lot of things when you're doing nothing. Instead of just standing there in front of the guy like this, making sure you're moving around, you're feinting, you're trying to set something up. It's never just, Solomon doesn't just go at people. It might look like it, but I'm not. I'm setting this up. I'm feinting. I'm moving left. I'm moving right. And then I'm going. I'm moving backward, maybe forward. I'm slipping. Then I'm ripping. So I would say it's the timing,
Yeah, and I could attest to that watching each and every one of your fights. It's as if you're staying busy, you're staying active within each and every moment of the fight, constantly scoring, attempting to score throughout the course of a fight. And you provided me with what they call a segue in the biz. I didn't want to get to it yet. I wanted to save it for the end, but I have to say, and I'm not just saying this because I'm interviewing you and you took the time out of your day to join me on the show, which I greatly appreciate, but your fight with Johnny Parsons in the Dana White Contender Series was one of the closest fights that I think they scored it close. But if I'm watching it, and I'm just being honest with you, I thought you won that fight. I came away from that fight thinking, wow, what a huge moment. He did it. He made it happen. I scored that fight for you. For what it's worth, I'm not a judge. I'm not a trainer. Practice, train a little bit, but nowhere near your level. I thought you won that fight when that decision was read, and it was split decision, and they scored it for Johnny Parsons. How shocked were you in that moment, and how did you feel walking out of that UFC Apex? Because that was a massive opportunity for you, and I thought you did a really great job in that fight.
And thank you very much. A lot of people thought I did a great job, including myself. I could have done more, but just to describe the feeling before I get into breaking down the whole fight.
Sure.
Man, that 20 minutes were the happiest and almost maybe saddest moments of my life.
Wow.
Walking out, you can see me smiling. I'm so happy I'm finally here. I'm really not even thinking about like Dana White or anything like that because he's gonna be there anytime. He's just another spectator. He's just paying me.
Right.
But spectator spectators. I'm here to put on the show. So I was so happy and so proud of myself to be walking out to a UFC octagon. That was amazing. To be in Las Vegas and to feel like everything I've been talking about is coming to fruition, which it still is. But in that moment, it was just it wasn't bigger than life. It wasn't bigger than me, but it was just a very, very big moment. And then after the fight, obviously I had my hand up. I thought I came away with the victory. And they said the other guy had to give the other guy the nod for whatever reasons they saw. So like I said, it was the happiest and saddest moment of my life. Right after the fight, man, honestly, I felt heartbroken. I was heartbroken. Think about the biggest heartbreak you can ever think of. Any girl that ever broke your heart, or any family member, or anything like that.
Right.
That's how I felt, man. And I was almost like, I wasn't lost. I can't say that because I got right back to training immediately. And I was trying to fight in December, but the card got canceled. But I guess after that, it was like, for me, it was like the only time where I was like, man, fighting betrayed me. A lot of my life I spent, alone and working towards this goal, and in all the dark times of my life, I always, the love for fighting and the belief that if I was true to the game, it would be true to me. That's what got me through a lot of bad times. That's what got me through, nights when I was hungry or sleeping in my car. Just the thought of that, like the love that I'm putting towards the sport is gonna come back to me. And I feel like at that moment it didn't come back, but that doesn't mean it won't come back. Man, to think about it, man, it had me heartbroken. It had me heartbroken. I get messed up with my words when I still think about it, because it's like, that's what it is. The best way to put it is a heartbreak. For anyone that doesn't, like, I never fought or knows what it's like to win or lose, never competed. The best way for me to put it, for anyone to understand how it feels, is to feel like you got your heart broken by someone that you loved so much more than anything else, and they broke your heart. But I can't necessarily say it was a game. I could have done better. I could have maybe struck a little bit more. But overall, that's just how I felt.
I thought, based on your skills and your talents that you have evolved, I thought going into the fight, if Salomon fights X, Y, and Z, he'll win this fight. And I thought, from my vantage point, you fought X, Y, and Z, your style, your way, and that was your fight. I will say that for what it's worth. I think that'll motivate. I want to say that to motivate you. I definitely don't want you thinking about the heartbreak heading into this fight.
No, it's okay. Man, I'm 100% recovered. I'm healed.
You're good. Yeah, I know you've trained really hard.
I'm better than good. I'm great, man. I'm ready to go down in Buffalo. I can't wait, man. There's nothing that sets my heart on fire more than this sport. Without this sport, I might be a different person. Not might be. I probably would be a different person. So I'm grateful for every opportunity I've ever had, the highs and the lows, the journey. I'm living the dream. The dream isn't just getting rich and getting millions and billions of dollars, which is going to happen to me. Mark my words on that. But the dream is the journey, and I'm living the journey. And, I have so many people now in my life that, support me so much, and they love me so much, and the fans and everyone, they're giving me so much love and support. And that's a dream come true. That alone is a dream come true. There were so many days when I was just starting this game off, and like I said, I was sleeping in my car, and I could never imagine getting all the love that I got now when I was freaking eating Wendy's sandwiches in between practice.
Right. And I like to say this too. I say this with myself. I say this to other people, that the comeback is always greater than the setback. I think this was a minor, I don't even want to call it a setback for you, because I think this is just adding fuel to the fire that is Salomon Renfro, the Black Dragon, heading into this fight. LFA 125, Adam Fujit. You as you mentioned, you've had, for a fighter at your level in your career, you've had so much support really from the jump. I've followed you, when you were training at WNY MMA, and you've popped back in with Patchy Mix and stuff like that. As far as one of those fighters that has really risen up the ranks like you have. What has that felt like to just have a huge nucleus of support that not a lot of fighters get that at this stage of their career? It usually takes them to make it to the big show to get that type of support. So for you, what is that like for you? How humbling is that?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's funny because I actually literally this morning I wrote a post on Facebook, Twitter, and I put some stuff out on Instagram just saying how grateful I am for everybody. I just woke up feeling very, very grateful and very happy that I get to go put on a show in Buffalo, New York. Like, man, I remember being in high school and at Canisius and telling my teammates, like, guys, I'm going to fight. And they're like, you going to do what? Like, what are you going to do? They might not have known that I had so much fighting experience, but they're like, yeah, where? Fight who? And I'm like, MMA in the cage. They're like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. You know? So, you know, just to look back at those beginnings to now, it's, man, like I said, it's a dream come true. I'm so, so grateful for every single person that supports me, every person that likes a comment, that likes or comments or shares my stuff, that buys a T-shirt, that even says, hey, I want to watch the Black Dragon fight. You know, every single person, it means the world to me because it literally is a dream come true. I will literally visualize people in the millions singing my name, you know, as I come out to fight. And that's going to happen, but it's slowly but surely growing. And I feel like the reason why it's growing because I just always kept it real, and I continue to keep it real. And I wear my heart in my sleeve, and I'm proud of that. I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it for the world. So I'm very, very grateful for that.
That's awesome. I definitely have noticed watching you train in training videos and stuff like that, and hearing things from guys that you've trained with that, you know, and I can see it in this interview. You have a very big personality. You're always open to chatting with people, whether they're fans or just fans of yours or fans of the sport. You're always really respectful to your fans as well as just the public in general. And you have that personality, but there is a switch that everybody talks about that fights, that competes. I know about it just from my wrestling days of, yeah, I could be happy, jovial Ryan, but then once it was time to put my headgear on and go out there on the wrestling mat, I had to turn into a little bit of a different animal, a little bit of a different person. So describe that for the folks that are watching this and listening to this. What is that like for you? What is that process for you to kind of flip that switch and be fight ready come fight time, walking into the cage?
Yeah, well, I can say this. In my life, I've dealt with a lot of turmoil, a lot of highs and lows. And I used to have a lot of anger issues. Not like I was like beating anybody up randomly or like, you know, doing all that stuff. But I just had a lot of anger inside of me, a lot of questions that were never answered, that still aren't answered. And so I just learned how to channel that and put it all into my craft, you know, not just my anger, my happiness, my sadness, excitement, everything. I put all those emotions into my craft. So when it's time to go out there and fight, man, I feel like it's the time where I can truly be myself and just let go. Yeah, I'm myself right now, but I mean, I can be all of Solomon. I can be the man. I can be the mean Solomon. I can be happy. I can be upset. I can be frustrated. I can faint. I can laugh. I can put on a whole show, and everyone's watching me. So where were we with this question again?
Yeah, yeah, you answered it pretty much. I was saying, what is it like for you to flip that switch? What is it that helps you flip that switch? And you nailed that question. I mean, your past experiences with, you know, your frustrations in your life growing up or whatever it may be. You mentioned, you know, your dad and how much of a motivating factor he was for you based on his experience in combat sports, but you wanted to kind of forge your own path. And I think, you know, a lot of sons deal with that with their fathers. Like, my dad has done this, and that. And he's like, well, you can do this, and that too. And I'm like, well, no, I kind of want to do it this way. You know, I want to do it this way, just because it's my way, you know? So you've done that for yourself as well. And, you know, I touched on this earlier too, like throughout your career, you've stated that you are the greatest of all time. Like, that is your belief, and you have to affirm that self-belief, you know, in your own mind as you train. You know your talent, you know how you've improved better than anybody, really, and you're getting that affirmation by your trainers and your training partners throughout the journey. But what is it about your mentality that makes you feel like you have an advantage heading into your fights?
It's my work ethic. It's my work ethic. Obviously, I've always had the belief, and I've been doing this for a very long time. So really, I have a lot of experience over guys, more combat experience than my resume even shows. But it's my work ethic. I know I work harder than anyone and everyone they're going to put me in there with. I mean, when it comes to watching the film, when it comes to training, when it comes to diet, being a good teammate, all those things, man. I work so hard at my craft, and I know no one else is putting in the time like I'm putting in. I've given up everything for this. I've changed my whole entire life for this. You know, I've done so many things. My whole trajectory in life is different because I'm chasing this path, and guys aren't doing that. And, you know, they're even in most of this camp. I stopped working after the Contender Series fight. I stopped working. I stopped really like doing classes and stuff like that. I only train, and at times it's been very, very hard. I've been financially dealing with certain situations, but I know in the long run that it's going to pay off. And I know that those guys are making those sacrifices. Those guys have to get jobs. Maybe they have families and things like that to support, and I understand that, but they have to get jobs, and they have maybe wives or, you know, family members they got to be with all the time. For me, I'm isolated. I'm only doing this. This is all I'm doing. This is all I'm knowing. This is all I'm putting my time and effort and energy and love into. I'm putting all of it into this. My whole heart is in this shit.
Yeah.
And I feel like most guys, their whole heart isn't in it. Even at the UFC level, they're making a bunch of money. I feel like some of those guys start show up for just a paycheck or just do it because they know they like the sport. They've been doing it for so long. But for me, I'm grateful for each and every aspect that I have of martial arts in my life. So I think that's what it is. My work ethic, my belief, but the fact that, you know, my whole everything is in this game. And if you want to get everything you want, you have to give everything you have. And I'm giving everything I have. I know they're not giving everything they have. And I'm going to show that once again, February 25th, when I put this man away.
Yeah, and as far as that goes, Adam Fujit, you're fighting, and this is one that it's that next step that back in the win column for you. I have full faith in you that you'll take care of it and get the job done, just based on your self-belief. Like that, you know, that the way you answered that question, I think anyone would say, this man is fully dialed in. This man is fully, you know, tunnel vision heading into a fight, heading into your training, not just heading into a fight, going from one fight to the next, the comeback being better than the setback for you. And Solomon, man, I am really excited for your career. I have faith that one day I can say in the future, I talked to future UFC fighter Solomon Renfro, future UFC champion, because that's your ultimate goal, right?
Champion. Not just UFC champion. All respect to all those guys, but I want to be the best champion ever. Not just the best champion ever, but I want to be the greatest athlete ever. Not just I'm going to be. I want to transcend the sport. I mean every bit of that. I mean it with my whole heart. I'm not but I'm going to transcend the sport. You know, I want to be like that LeBron James figure, that Michael Jordan, that Serena Williams, that Tiger Woods. You know, whoever else you can name up. I always say NASCAR because there's NASCAR drivers out there that transcend their sport. There's so many other great athletes that transcend their sports, and I want to be that. But not just that, but bigger than all of them. You know, bigger than Brady, bigger than Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders, all those guys. I love them all. It's all love. Mike Tyson, Ali. You know,
you're saying that out of respect. You're saying that out of respect too. Like those are the milestones that you want to surpass. They set the benchmark. You want to raise the bar for yourself and surpass them. Yeah, that's very motivating. And I can say the same thing for myself in my own line of work like this. Very motivating to hear those words coming from you. Solomon, I wish you a ton of luck. I know that you've trained very, very hard for this fight. I'm so happy for you to be back in New York. There's so many fans that will be cheering you on, of course, at Seneca Niagara, myself included. Man. Yeah.
I can't wait. I can't wait. New York was good, baby. You're back.
You're back
home, man. It's
about to be
a great show.
There's no way you're not going to put on a great show for us in front of the home fans. I look forward to watching you fight. Any last words for the fans?
Hey, I love you all. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you in my life. And going forward, we're going to take over. You guys always know what I say. We will win. Not just I, not just another person. We will win. So if you're behind me, you're winning as well. You know, so we will win this fight. We will win in life. And that's that. I love you all.
I love it, dude. I'm really looking forward to your fight. I look forward to maybe meeting you too at the event after a big win.
Let's do it, man. Get some flicks, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Let's do it. So thank you so much for joining me, Solomon. Best of luck. And I look forward to seeing you fight next Friday at Seneca Niagara.
Thank you so much for having me. Hey, are we live right now? Is this live or is this?
We are live. Yeah, we are live. Yep.
All right, that's what's up, man. That's dope. What's up, everybody? I know we were live. I'm happy about it though.
We're live. When I introduced the show before, we had the audio issues. I think I did state we were live, but yeah, people are loving this on my social media. Feel free to throw out your social media before you head off too.
Unfortunately, man, I lost you again. I can't really hear you.
Okay.
But I'm sure you're probably signing me off. Like I said, once again, all love. I appreciate you for reaching out to me for the interview. And I look forward to putting on the show. The Renfro Show is back, baby. Tune in. We're taking this W no matter what.
That's awesome. That is Salomon Renfro. Take care, buddy. And I look forward to seeing you fight.
Number one.
That is Salomon Renfro of LFA 125. He's taking on Adam Fujit in the co-main event for LFA 125. That was an awesome interview. We did have some audio issues to start it, unfortunately, but I still enjoyed talking with Salomon. I look forward to meeting him. Great guy, awesome guy, very motivating. I mean, I come away from that interview feeling extremely motivated. I don't know about you guys, but why try something if you don't want to be the best at it, right? Why even put the energy into it if you don't want to be the best? I love that saying. I'm excited for Lovith Young to join me next on the show. She should be joining us very soon for the LFA 125 Fighter Interviews show. We did have some audio issues. I'm really hoping that those audio issues don't translate over to Lovith joining me on the show. But Lovith Young, she takes part in the main event for LFA 125, and I look forward to seeing her fight due to the fact that she is an inspiration. Lovith Young is trying to inspire the majority of the world, I feel. As a Nigerian Terminator, 3-1-1. Young has 3 wins, of course, but all 3 of her wins via finish, hence the name Nigerian Terminator. She'll be fighting for the LFA strawweight title against Jackie Amorim. And I watched her last fight with Kelly D'Angelo, and her boxing is obviously a force inside the cage, mixes her punches really, really well. In her last fight, especially against Kelly D'Angelo, she went head, body, and even body, head. And she was really in the zone for that fight. I came away, obviously, extremely impressed, as I have been for all of her fights. And I've witnessed her evolve a ton since the beginning of her career, which her only loss went to decision. But she showed will, toughness, determination in that fight. And she's impressive on the feet, but, of course, she has great toughness. So Lovith Young should be joining us pretty soon here on the Thomas Take Sports podcast. That is the lineup for the show. And listen, when you have a fighter like Salomon Renfro, who hops on here and is so pumped up, so excited for this event to take place in front of his home fans. I mean, this is a guy that went to Canisius High School, and wrestled and things of that nature, worked his way up the ladder, had a really big opportunity with Dana White's Contender Series. And I really look forward to discussing that with him. I'm waiting on Lovith Young to be joining me here soon. Hoping soon here. But, I'm feeling like any one of us that we're in anything, we should all enjoy the fact that, we have a hometown guy on this card more than anything. And his motivation for this one is real stuff. I mean, that was a real nugget there in that interview with Salomon Renfro. The fact that, he's motivated by the younger years of his life, motivated by forging his own path. I can relate to that. I think a lot of people can relate to that. And that makes Salomon Renfro even more likable. That makes him even more likable. So waiting on Lovith Young to join us on the show. We have Lovith Young joining us on the show. We also have Ashley Nichols and Michael Stack joining us on the show for LFA 125, which takes place on February 25th at Seneca Niagara Casino. Ashley Nichols, she takes on Hillary Rose. Michael Stack takes on Kai Gregorio on the main card. And these are all main card fights. So I will be in attendance for LFA 125. And I'm waiting on the fact that this event is 6 days away. So 6 days away from LFA 125. And I wish it was tomorrow. I'm ready for these fights. I'm ready to take part in the event and take over with this show. Salomon Renfro is ready to take over. You heard him. I liked the fact that he mentioned that the greatest fighter of all time, in his opinion, is Demetrius Johnson, as well as John Jones. Because I think Demetrius Johnson does not get nearly enough credit for the career that he has had. He's had a wonderful career. I know he lost his last fight in 1FC, but it was really great to hear him say that, because I think Demetrius Johnson, just for whatever reason, doesn't get the credit that he deserves. So we move forward. Onward and upward. I know that the LFA 124 event was a smashing hit. Of course, LFA has been putting on great fight cards. They had the last fight card. It was Formiga versus Boons. And, of course, these cards are on UFC Fight Pass. So you'll be able to check these fights out on UFC Fight Pass. If you have UFC Fight Pass, you have to subscribe, of course. But as a subscriber to UFC Fight Pass myself, I'll be in attendance for the fights. But I'm going to check them out, after the fact. I want to watch them, too, on a, broadcast and hear commentators and everything, too, for LFA that do a great job. So Lovith Young, she has a bevy of kickboxing experience. She's been able to blend and mix that within her evolution as a mixed martial artist. I want to ask her about that, though, because going from kickboxing to MMA is a completely different ballgame. It's like going from playing quarterback to corner in football, just a completely different type of style. Of course, mixed martial arts implies all disciplines, whether it's boxing, kickboxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, and Ashley Nichols, who we'll talk to later in the show. She is going to be joining us to discuss her Muay Thai journey as well. But really, this is an opportunity for all of us to learn a lot about mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts is a sport that is still so very young, and it's a sport that it's evolving every single day. I think it's the fastest evolving sport that there's ever been, going from where it was 20, 25 years ago to where it is now. And it's definitely a great opportunity for me to go back into the memory bank and watch the fights from the old days and see how the sport has evolved in the ways that it has. Truly great. There is a lot more to discuss in terms of Lovith Young. Hopefully we can get her on. If not, I'll keep going here. There are moments of that Salomon Renfro interview where he talked about John Jones and being the GOAT. And hopefully we do see, just from a fan perspective, hopefully we do see John Jones step up into the, heavyweight division, taking on Francis or whoever it may be, Stipe, whoever it may be, as Salomon mentioned on the show. A great opportunity for me to interview somebody like that who I've followed for quite some time. His career has crossed paths with training partners like Patchy Mix, training out of Western New York MMA. He even referred to Patchy Mix as his brother. We've seen even the success of Patchy Mix in terms of Western New York MMA and what that has done for all of us in terms of this area being a breeding ground for great fighters. And Renfro 8-2 heading into this one against Adam Fujit, who is 7-3. So two fighters with a very similar record. But man, if I were to judge who will win that fight just based off that interview with Salomon, I would say Salomon. He seems very, very pumped up for that fight with Adam Fujit, and very just pumped up as a man, not even as a fighter, just happy to be where he is at, mentally, physically, emotionally, throughout his mixed martial arts journey. And I think each and every one of these fighters has a journey that is so different. It's as different as you could say baseball. When you're stepping into the batter's box, you have your batting stance. These fighters have different journeys. Each one of them has different reasons for motivation as to why they are where they are today, and what motivates them beyond today is extremely important. Each one has to find new motivation in some form or fashion, or sometimes a fighter can use the same motivation to what motivated them to start their career to where they are now. You can tell Salomon Renfro's reasons for motivation throughout the course of his career have drastically changed, but remained the same at the same time. So that's a unique situation that I'm very excited to hear more about from Salomon as he continues to rack up win after win after win after win. And again, I apologize for the audio issues at the start of the show. We did have some audio issues. It was live, unfortunately, but you guys were tuning in and enjoying the show, so I really appreciate that. This is a live stream, and this will be heard on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify and Google Podcasts. And of course, we can edit things up. We can do that. So in the day and age of today's technology, we can make that happen. So I have Lovith Young joining us on the show. I want to say, too, that LFA is a fantastic organization. I am so happy to have LFA as a part of this area, coming back to Seneca Niagara. Back in the day of mixed martial arts, when it was really just getting started, we saw some local MMA events, Raging Wolf and some of these other promotions along the way. But to have Seneca Niagara with LFA is as legit as it gets. As far as what they've done to provide a breeding ground, a proving ground, I should say, for fighters to make it to the big shows, to make it to the UFC, of course. And LFA embraces that, and as they should. I mean, what a badge of honor to say that you've been able to cultivate the talent as well as recognize the talent that is within this sport that can propel itself beyond the organization. Fully legitimizes LFA as the NCAA, if you will, that is the NCAA to the NFL, what the LFA is to the UFC and to other organizations around the world. So I've greatly enjoyed the product over the last 4 or 5 years. Ed Soares founded the product, former manager of Anderson Silva, current manager maybe too. I know they still do a lot of stuff together, so my specifics on that, I shouldn't say former or current, but he was a manager at one point during Anderson's heyday. I'm not sure if he still is, but this is a man that's been around the sport of mixed martial arts for a long time, and a man that I greatly admire for what he has done for the sport, representing fighters and putting fighters in the right position to maximize their talent, their potential within the sport of mixed martial arts. We have a lot of people out there that are greatly enjoying this episode, and for me to have this opportunity to interview some of these fighters, it's really, really great to have the opportunity to interview Salomon Renfro, I should say. Hoping to get Loveth Young on the show, but it's looking like we're playing a little bit of the waiting game on that. But of course, I've done this before. This isn't my first show, won't be my last. What could I say about LFA that is different? If you've watched LFA or haven't watched LFA, just the fact that it feels like the fans are on top of the octagon at these events. I love that. I feel like that point in MMA back in the day can't quite be as recaptured as well as it is by LFA. If that makes sense. That point in MMA's history kind of came and went as the UFC grew and grew and grew. But LFA has done a great job of preserving that time period in the history of the sport by continuing that history of the sport by cultivating and creating more talent in this one. So in this sport. So we have a lot more to discuss. I will say too that this is the debut of LFA, Legacy Fighting Alliance, in New York State. President Steve Bean announced back in December that this would be broadcast on UFC Fight Pass. And Loveth Young has taken on undefeated Jacqueline Amorim, who has a record of 4-0, and Loveth Young has a record of 3-1. Adam Fujit, who has a record, as I mentioned, of 7-2, is taking on the first guest of the show, Solomon Renfro, who has a record of 8-2. Ashley Nichols, who's also going to be on the show, she has a record of 3-3 as she takes on Hillary Rose, who has a record of 5-3. Michael Stack, who will be on the show as well, is taking on Kai Gregorio, and Michael Stack has a record of 6-1, and Kai Gregorio has a record of 7-3. Jimmy Lawson, a very intriguing mixed martial arts prospect in the heavyweight ranks. He takes on Taylor Escamilla, who has a 1-0 record. Jimmy Lawson has a 3-1 record. Taylor Cahill making his professional mixed martial arts debut against Riley Wiseman. Gavin Teasdale taking on Mike Howard. Anthony Pilot taking on Alex Moore. Austin Ross taking on Brett Ozinga. So that is a full slate fight card. Adam Fujit and Salomon Renfro will fight at the welterweight division, 170 pounds. I think that division fits really well for Salomon Renfro based on his body type, his size at that weight class, and his speed at that weight class as well. And to hear Salomon Renfro go through, I wanted to ask him about the Johnny Parsons fight, the DWCS fight, the Dana White Contender Series fight, because that was one of the worst decisions I've ever seen. I have to say it. I'm not saying it for bias reasons. I'm not saying it because the man was just on my show. But that fight with Renfro and Johnny Parsons, you go back and watch it, as I have multiple times, and I just can't find where Parsons won that fight. I know it was close. It was a rightful split decision, but I can't find where Parsons won that fight. And I think this next fight, obviously, that last fight for Renfro, I should say, is in the rearview mirror. It seems pretty clear that it is. But moving into this one step closer with a win. One step closer with a win over Adam Fujit. And Adam Fujit has a 7-2 record, as I mentioned, and he's won multiple titles in organizations and such. He's coming off of a 3-fight win streak where he fought at X1 World Events 51, a one to remember, getting a submission win via Kimura against Jonathan Vistanti. He did fight Reno Remigio at X1 World Events 54, Champions 4 Defenders of Hawaii in April of 2019. He did fight Devin Brock at Pure Combat Battle for the Brave in November of 2019. And the last 3 fights, 3 wins, 3 finishes for Adam Fujit. He did fight Austin Vanderford as well early in his career in his 3rd professional fight. He lost that one via unanimous decision. But we go to Salomon Renfro, go through his record and what he's achieved in the sport. 25 years old, this kid. 25 years old. He's a kid. I call him a kid. I'm only 4 years older than him. But you guys get the point. There is a lot of success within Renfro's career, and most of it, I think, was seen and heard in CFFC, Cage Fury Fighting Championships, where we saw Salomon Renfro win a lot of fights in dominant fashion, whether it was unanimous decision, whether it was split decision, or submission, or KO, or TKO. Sometimes over the course of these fighters' careers, when you really see them evolve is when they start to finish fights in a wide variety of ways. And when you have Renfro, who has won fights via unanimous decision, via split decision, via submission anaconda choke, or submission that you've seen, arm bars or stuff like that. I'm not saying that that's what happened with Renfro, but I'm just saying when you see a fighter win fights with different methods, you really start to see how that fighter has evolved, right? And to have Renfro winning these fights based off of unanimous decision, anaconda choke, TKO, KO, And that Johnny Parsons fight, week 8, 2021, October of 2021, that split decision, refereed by Mike Beltran. Such a close fight, but I thought Salomon had to fight X, Y, and Z, and he did that, and then some. So getting back in the win column here, I think kind of wipes that loss off. Getting back in the win column with as resounding a victory as I believe Renfro can have. That's one that will kind of be in the rearview mirror. Each fighter's had one of those fights. A fighter that I wanted to mention to Salomon, Rashad Evans, he paved the way for a lot of these fighters to come through the ranks of Western New York MMA. Whether Rashad was from Niagara Falls, going to Michigan State, going down to Albuquerque, New Mexico, to really cultivate a great gym at Greg Jackson's, moving from there to the Black Zillions gym in Cape Coral, Florida. But Rashad Evans held a championship. Rashad Evans is one of the mainstay names that every mixed martial arts fan should know. And the fact that you have a Rashad Evans, Apache Mix, Solomon Renfro, it's great that we have seen this sport evolve. And somebody that I've also had the pleasure of interviewing as well is Baby Joe Macy, who had a great run as a boxer in the early 2000s, mid 2000s. So there's a lot of great fighters that have come out of the Western New York region, and to interview two of them, not bad at all. Pretty awesome to say that I was able to interview two of them on this show. So the best part about this event is that I think you're going to get to see a little bit of everything. You're going to get to see a little bit of, full, complete mixed martial arts throughout the journey of the night, between different weight divisions and fighters that can win in a wide variety of ways, that have won in a wide variety of ways. It's a very exciting card. And MMA is at a great point where you have all these organizations that are doing a lot to help build the sport into what it is, whether it's LFA or some of the other organizations. I think that they have a real basis to say that, this is a proving ground for such and such fighters throughout the way. So I've had a lot of awesome people on this show before, and to have the opportunity to interview, I think, professional that I respect more than any in terms of fighting. I respect fighters more than anybody, I think, in terms of professional sport. Not saying I respect fighters more than any person, but I'm saying I respect fighters more than any other athlete. I respect athletes, but fighting is different. These people are putting their bodies on the line. And in order to put your body on the line, you got to do it to want to be the best at anything. I think that's when you're really putting it on the line and making it as worth it to yourself as you possibly can over the course of your career. So it was cool to ask a fighter who their favorite fighter is and why, who inspired them, who put them in the right headspace to commit to this sport. And to hear him say George St. Pierre, I mean, that's my GOAT. That's the guy that I have always said is the GOAT on this show. But to hear him say Jones, GSP, Demetrius Johnson, that's awesome. And for Renfro to be a 25-year-old fighter, to go from point A to point B within his career, all the peaks and valleys, all the inspiration, all the motivation that he has had over the course of his time as a pro, true testament to where he is at in his career. And for Seneca Niagara to have this event, I think it's going to be a huge success. And I think I think it will be one of many great events by LFA at Seneca Niagara Casino, because I think Seneca Niagara does events just as well as anyone. I love the atmosphere of a fight night at a casino. I love it. I think that there are a few things better than that. And as we are joined soon here by the next guest of the show, I look forward to asking more questions. I look forward to hearing more and more about these journeys that these fighters have had. We're at a point where I truly feel like mixed martial arts is at its top. It's been at its top multiple times. That's the great thing about mixed martial arts. It has literally grown so much that you could say, "Oh wow, MMA it can't get much bigger than this. Can't get much bigger than this," and then it does. Each and every time, it just outdoes itself. And you're seeing that with the fact that there's multiple organizations out there that have helped make the sport what it is. I mean, that is great. I know there's one quote unquote NFL of MMA, as they call it. But I think that there's multiple organizations that have cultivated and created opportunity for fighters. And I think that's great for the sport. The NFL doesn't have that. Major League Baseball doesn't have that. It's an advantage, I feel, that mixed martial arts has those multiple organizations in comparison to other sports. And boxing is at that point where they're trying to dabble in that. They're trying to do a little bit of that, but it's just not quite selling the way that it has for mixed martial arts. And I think that's largely due to just promotional issues where these companies do not quite promote these fighters in the form and fashion that they can and that they should, I should say. Whether they can, that's another story for another day, but whether they should, that's a definite. They definitely should. So if I can play a small part in helping promote some of these fighters over the course of their career, I will do that, as I have on the show for the last 5-6 years. Whether it's just me talking about the sport, bringing people's attention to the sport, or having a great opportunity to interview a fighter that is fighting on a card. I respect the men and women that compete in this sport. And I would go as far to say that I respect the women more, to be quite honest with you, because the women have not had within the sport as men have, because they haven't been as big a part of the sport as men have for as long as men have. And when Strikeforce really started the whole women's MMA divisions, you had a fighter by the name of Gina Carano who really tore up the scene. You had a fighter by the name of Chris Cyborg who really made her career a reality in terms of achieving what she wanted to achieve, being the best and eventually beating Gina Carano. And then, of course, you have Miesha Tate and Ronda Rousey. Without Miesha Tate, I don't think Ronda Rousey would have got to where she did, because when Miesha Tate was on top, Ronda took that from her, and it made Ronda an even bigger star, made that rivalry bigger for both of their, the rivalry made both women's careers bigger, and it made women's MMA, I think, what it is today. That is largely what I attribute to making women's MMA what it is today. And to have Ashley Nichols joining me on the show, she's fighting at 115 pounds. She's 3-3. She's taken on Hillary Rose. She has an extensive background in Muay Thai, and I'm going to talk to her about that. I'm going to talk to her about her mixed martial arts journey, because I feel like each and every fighter has had a different journey within the sport, and how mixed martial arts has benefited and changed her life for the better, as well as discipline within the sport. So those are things that I really adore about MMA in more ways than one, in terms of what MMA can provide to a human being, not necessarily just going from being a pro, being an amateur to a pro. But I think martial arts works wonders for just the average person, for any single person. You can really take a lot from the sport and kind of build it into your inner soul or being. Talking about a lot of awesome stuff here, and I think it's very important to do that. So with that being said, I have Ashley Nichols joining me on the show momentarily. Hopefully we can get her on for the next half hour. Fighting at all these different weight divisions. I mean, look and see what, now there's strawweight, 115-pound women's division. There's flyweight, which is 125. Legacy Fighting Alliance has, equal opportunity for all their fighters. And to know that LFA 125 is going to be bringing it with these awesome fighters and these awesome fights, I can't wait. I really can't. So I'm looking forward to getting the next guest on the show. That is Ashley Nichols, joining me at 1:30, which is pretty soon. And with that, what else did I have? I had another talking point. Oh, there she is. How's it going, Ashley?
It's going. How are you?
It's going good. Great to have you on the show. I really appreciate you hopping on. I've been looking forward to this. So I want to start off by saying that as I did research for this interview, I found your journey as a mixed martial artist pretty inspiring, because I can relate to coming from different sports within, one sport, basically martial art discipline, to another. And your background is extensive in Muay Thai. I want to talk to you about that. How did you find yourself wanting to go from Muay Thai to mixed martial arts? What motivated you to do that?
Well, I think mixed martial arts is like the most challenging sport of all combat sports, really. You have to be well-rounded everywhere. You have to have like wrestling, you have to have striking. Like these days, you can't just be one-dimensional or two-dimensional as a fighter. So thinking back, when I started doing Muay Thai, I was doing well in Muay Thai competing. Like I was winning some like regional and some international competitions. And I was like, the next step for me would be to challenge myself in mixed martial arts.
Awesome. And as far as how you did you stay within your Muay Thai gym, moving to MMA, or did you kind of change things going from Muay Thai to MMA?
So from Muay Thai to MMA, I did switch teams a few times actually. So I've trained at a few teams, and now I'm at Niagara Top Team, and this is the team is probably the best in the country right now, and solid wrestling. So me being a striker, eventually I'm going to be competing against strong wrestlers. So and they're doing well. Like Jasmine, she just won her UFC debut, and it's so awesome. And so we're getting to train with them and getting the push that I need to make the return to this fight. So I'm really looking forward to it.
That's fantastic. And I mentioned leading up to you hopping on, I respect all martial arts and all mixed martial artists in every single discipline. But I would say, and I'm saying this because I've been a fan of the sport for a long time, and I watched how women's mixed martial arts was cultivated and has skyrocketed over the course of the last, 10 years, I'd say, starting back to the Strikeforce days and going into the UFC. And obviously LFA has done a great job, as well as Invicta too, as far as promoting women's MMA. But I want to talk to you about who were some of your biggest, I guess you could say, who are some of the fighters that you kind of took inspiration from as women's MMA was kind of at its breeding, at its birth, essentially?
For me, my inspiration for Muay Thai to begin with was Jermaine Durandemi, who's also fighting in the UFC now. When I was first competing, or even before I thought about competing, it was her, and then Angela Rivera-Parr, Julie Kitchen for Muay Thai. And then once the women's division started in the UFC, I was super inspired by, Ronda Rousey, and then her starting the UFC women's division, and then everyone who else was fighting in the UFC afterwards, of course. So just thinking back, definitely the trailblazers of MMA, they were all inspiring to me. The ones who set out and went to the UFC in the beginning, and then Strikeforce as well, and then Invicta, and so just inspired by by all of it. So
That's great. That's great. I think it's really easy to take inspiration from kind of each era, whether it was like Gina Carano or Miesha Tate or Ronda, Holly Holm. You know, she's a fighter that I would say in your journey, you went from Muay Thai to mixed martial arts. She went from kickboxing to as well as boxing to mixed martial arts. So that probably was one of those influences as well that you could kind of relate to and say, hey, I was able to take certain things from her journey and kind of compare it to mine. You talked about.
I would like to add, actually, could I add to the inspirations like Joanna Jacek in the strawweight division, of course. Her striking is amazing. And then there's also Valentina, of course. She's her Muay Thai background also is really inspirational. And we all won at the IFMA World Championship the same year when I went to compete there in 2012. So Joanna was there. She competed, won her division. Valentina won her division. I won my division, just in different weight classes, of course. Right. So it was just super inspiring to see them now in the UFC and doing well.
Yeah, and doing really well. Yeah, and I think that is to see women's mixed martial arts throughout all, you know, organizations and you know, the divisions are set in stone now as legitimate, as I always thought it was. I mean, even prior to the UFC having women's MMA, Strikeforce having women's MMA, those initial fights, without the success of those fights, I don't think it would have got the attention of Dana White and some of the other promoters along the way and organizations along the way. I was happy you actually took the words right out of my mouth with Joanna Jacek and Valentina Shevchenko. When you were in that tournament, I guess you could say, or event, were you watching them fight in that event? Were you kind of seeing how, you know, they were fighting and kind of trying to add that to your skill set?
I did actually. I heard about them before in Muay Thai. It's like in the Muay Thai competitive world, it's like, you know who the best are kind of thing, right? So I was like, okay, Joanna's going to be competing, Valentina's competing this day, so I would like make sure that I was able to watch their fight. So yeah, I already knew about them before.
Right. And did you have the opportunity to meet them in that event?
No, I didn't. I was pretty much focused on what I needed to do to compete and everything. Yeah, I was just tuned in to compete for my division and everything. And I think I wouldn't say I would borrow from their style, but I would definitely you know, kind of calculate and see what their strategy was and how they brought their strategy to win their fights and how they won their fights. Yeah, I think yeah, so yeah.
That's good. No, that's great. I love envisioning that, because I oftentimes wonder, you know, what a fighter can kind of take, if they can take anything from another style and maybe evolve it in their own way, or try to put their own spin on it. I think a lot of fighters have kind of done that. You can say like John Jones might have taken a few techniques and kind of turned them into his own from Anderson Silva and Israel Adesanya as well with Anderson or John. But how old were you when you started training in Muay Thai?
Well, I was 20 in Muay Thai. So when I first started training Muay Thai, it was just like for recreation, you know, for fitness. I think I was 20 or 21.
That's awesome. And you fought in Muay Thai for quite a while, obviously. What would my next question, I guess I could say, I did in the research, you're such a multifaceted mixed martial artist, from the Muay Thai background to now being a mixed martial artist, but you did have a gold medal in BJJ. How important was it to you to integrate that discipline of your fight game into your fight game, I should say?
I think like also the like not being one-dimensional, not being a two-dimensional fighter, like we need to have experience in all aspects of mixed martial arts. Mm-hmm. And I learned that in 2013 when I lost to Randa Marcos. Mm-hmm. She got me down, and then she was able to get an arm lock, and I was like, okay, that means I know what I need to work on. So I needed to work on jujitsu, of course. So I started kind of training and preparing there. And yeah, so that's how I found that jujitsu was important as well.
And you also fought Ashley Letourneau, who I'm assuming is related to the Letourneau she was a champion in Bellator. The name's not coming to me right now, but
Valerie Letourneau. I don't know if they're related or not.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, I think they might be. I'm not positive, but my question within that is, when you fought Ronda Marcos, that was your debut, right? Mixed martial arts.
Yes.
That was so fighting someone like Ronda Marcos, who she's fought pretty much everywhere, and to come away in that fight, first round armbar loss. Did you feel like you were more motivated going into your second fight, being that you kind of got the loss out of the way and you needed to kind of brush that off? I've heard some fighters say that, I know a lot of fighters that have lost their first pro fight, and they say it's almost to your benefit because it can reinvigorate you going back into the gym to get that loss off your shoulder.
Of course. So for me, I actually, after the loss, I thought maybe I wasn't prepared enough. So I actually went and competed for like 4 or 5 years for pro Muay Thai.
Right.
And just like training jujitsu here and there. But mainly I was like, okay, I need to get more pro experience. So I went back and just competed in a lot of pro Muay Thai fights. And then when I decided that I wanted to get back to MMA, that's when I tried to focus more on jujitsu and then some wrestling and
from there. Right.
Yeah.
And as far as your ethnic background, I was very interested in hearing your take on how that has motivated you training within Canada. Talk to me about that. I'd love to hear any motivating stories that you have on that I think can inspire quite a lot of people.
Yes. So for my ethnic background, I'm Indigenous. The tribe that I'm from is Chippewas, and then also Oneida Nation, and also Potawatomi. And it's really important to me. Like we've been through a lot historically, and I think the fact that I'm still here competing and living a positive, healthy lifestyle, I think it just proves what kind of fighters we are and how we were destined to survive and to still excel in life. And my mom, actually, she was the one who got me involved in boxing when I first started training, like
wow,
as a youth. And it meant a lot to her that I was still competing and still training. So every once in a while, she'd be like, Ashley, you have to continue training. Because sometimes I would quit, like I would stop training, and then she would message me or call me and say, you need to continue training, because if you do, you're gonna do well. It's gonna be like what you need to do for your life, kind of thing. And so she was a fighter in terms of just like being able to survive through hardships and be an inspirational woman to me. So yeah, it means a lot to me to be able to represent the Indigenous community and to do well.
That's really beautiful. That's an amazing story. I found, I had Solomon Renfro on the show to start, and he talked about how his dad's path of fighting and stuff kind of motivated him to try it, but he also wanted to forge his own path within fighting and in life in general. Even though you had these, family motivations like your mom, and you had a lot of influences that have influenced you throughout your career in terms of inspiration. What have you tried to do within your career that is the Ashley Nichols way of saying, I want to have the Ashley Nichols career, and when it's all said and done, I did things my way? What to you is that, if that makes sense?
Yes, it makes sense. I'm still working on, figuring out what that is for me. I know what's important to me, like what I value is like mental health, health and wellness through like nutrition, through just different therapy strategies to make sure that, even throughout our challenges, we're still doing our best to live a positive and a good life. So I'm still trying to figure that out for myself. So.
Yeah, and that's something that it takes time to figure out. But I think you're onto something, because through what is important to you in mental health, I think mental health right now, especially as we're still kind of navigating through this pandemic, mental health it's always been important, but I think it's never been more prevalent as far as our awareness towards it within society, based on everything that everyone has been through around the world with this pandemic. But you've said about mixed martial arts that balance is needed uh, in life, in mental, physical, and emotional balance. What do you do to achieve that in the day-to-day life of your career?
So for like balance and well-being in terms of like mental aspect, I could,
Right.
focus on journaling. For emotional aspect, I could think about being in a state of gratitude. So things that I'm grateful for. The physical aspect, of course, is, going for a run or going for a walk, because that can help with your mental state as well. And yeah, just keeping life simple and not trying to overthink things, because I can overthink a lot. I think about, the fight, and think about the results of the fight, and hoping that I'm doing my best to prepare for it. And then with like, I'm also studying university, and I'm in university right now. So if I think too much about deadlines and everything, then I can get overwhelmed, right? So I need
Right.
to really just slow things down, focus on gratitude, focus on journaling, and doing what I need to do day to day. Yeah.
That's really inspiring. I think anyone that's watching this or listening to this, they'll be able to take inspiration from that. I think I could do a much better job of practicing those things, because it's oftentimes, I think, the toughest thing with mental health is you don't know how to find your own routine within that, and you have a routine that has kept you motivated heading into stepping into a cage to fight another person. And I think the coolest thing about combat sports, any form of combat, whether it's Muay Thai, wrestling, boxing, jiu-jitsu, grappling, anything like that, is that you go in there with the training of your trainers, what you've learned from your training partners, but at the end of the day, it's all on you. How much of that mindset do you find yourself in when you walk into the cage?
A lot of it is, trusting that you did everything you could do to prepare, and being present in the moment, and knowing that your training is going to be there with you. Your coaches are there with you. The support of your team and your community and your friends and family is there with you. Even though it's only you in there, it's true. However, just trusting and having faith that you did everything you could do to prepare, and that it's all with you there in the cage, is enough to keep you mentally focused and mentally tuned in.
And at the end of the day, when you have that, 20 seconds or so, as you walk over to your corner, you realize, oh, I'm not in here by myself. I got a couple people that are watching me compete, telling me what do I need to do to be better heading into that next round. So it is a team sport, because obviously you're a part of one of the better teams, I'd say, around the world right now, in terms of how they prepare their fighters and everything. But in terms of your motivation heading into this fight, what is it that you're looking to accomplish in this fight, outside of obviously just winning? What skills do you want to try to showcase in this, heading into this fight with Hillary Rose?
The skills I want to showcase would definitely be, my striking improvement, and my ability to come back from a loss. Because
Right.
it's been a few years. It's been a few years since I lost in my Invicta FC, the one debut, and then my second one I lost to Mallory Martin.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been working hard, and also recently training with Niagara Top Team, and they're really helping me get that edge and get that intensity mentally as well. And I just want to be able to prove the work that I've done, and my ability and my skill.
And Niagara Top Team, who are some of the training partners that you've had that have really pushed you heading into this fight?
Yeah, so there's there's a lot of the team that has been helping me. Definitely Jasmine Jasudavicius. She's been
Yep.
helping me out. Tishay Guthrow. Tishay's, yeah, they're one of the pioneers together. They kind of, started the Niagara Top team there. And so those two are like my main training partners, and they push me, they help me out and support me, and it means a lot. And then of course my coaches, Chris and Matt.
And in learning about Niagara Top Team, I know about it, but that is a gym that it's based in Ontario, right? That the Niagara Top Team based in Ontario.
Yeah.
Yep. So as far as how much have you seen not just women's MMA, but Canadian mixed martial arts evolve and grow? I mean, mixed martial arts has grown worldwide, of course, but I think in Canada specifically, I'm pretty close to Canada, being from Buffalo. I've seen and heard of so many fighters, including yourself, that really have grown a real base of talent within that country. Talk to me about that a little bit from your perspective.
Yeah, there's like so many right now, so many fighters who are representing in the UFC, Bellator, like Canadians are representing, and
Sure.
I think it's so inspiring right now, this time right now, to be competing and to be returning to competition. So like for women in fighting, like we've always represented and been technical and empowered and strong, and we're just going to continue to do that. So yeah, I think it's just a very inspiring time to be competing in MMA again. So I'm really looking forward to this fight.
I can tell you're excited. I can tell the more you talk about it, you're excited, because all that preparation, you can finally put it to the test. You don't have to prepare. You've already done that. Now it's the reward, right? This is the reward. The fight is the reward for you, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And there's that like Zen-like quality that you have that heading in there. I highly expect you to bring that into the cage with you. It also helps to have a fighter like George St. Pierre from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, that helped Canadian MMA explode. How many fighters have you encountered that say that, George St. Pierre is a big inspiration as to why they started fighting?
A lot of fighters mention GSP as like the GOAT of Canadian MMA, right?
Right.
So I just know, like in my training, like just talking to teammates, they'll say, yeah, GSP he's the greatest. He's inspiring. So yeah, he's definitely he's a good martial artist too. Like I listen to some of the podcasts that he did with Joe Rogan and like everything, and he's just like a positive mindset, positive person, a true martial artist, right?
That's great. So as far as fighting at LFA 125, it takes place next Friday at Seneca Niagara Casino. How excited are you to kind of come over to this side of Niagara and fight in front of these fans? I know so many people, myself included, obviously, that are really looking forward to this event, really excited for LFA and the product that they bring to the table. I want to gauge your excitement heading into this big fight.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to competing at Seneca Casino, and like in New York, there's some Indigenous nations in New York too. I know like some of my family members are going to be coming there too to watch the fight.
Great. That's amazing.
Yeah, and like I have an aunt who lives in New York right now. I don't know if she'll be able to go. However, like I think it's amazing because we have Indigenous communities in New York as well, and then in Seneca Casino, Seneca is a Indigenous tribe as well, right?
Right.
So I just think it's awesome to be able to, I've started training at Niagara Top Team, and they've been so like welcoming and supportive and helpful of my return, and I'm just really looking forward to representing for the team, for my nation, for women in sport, and it's going to be a great fight. I'm really looking forward to putting on like a a really good performance for everybody and being like, oh, she's back,
Yeah, that's what I have a feeling a lot of people will be saying. I can tell you're highly motivated heading into this one. I know for a fact that I'm excited, of course, for the fight, and I'm excited to see you back in there because I know that, as you said, it's been a little bit since you've been back, and you'll be back in the element that you feel you belong in. At the end of the day, that's where you feel most comfortable. Is that right? In the cage?
Yeah, I feel, a sense of almost like a peacefulness, but also focused and determined. And another part of like competing, I've always known like my ancestors are with me also. The prayers of my mom is with me also, because she was one of my biggest supporters. And knowing that, it also helped me stay motivated that I want to represent for her and I want to do a good, like have a good good performance with my skill and with my mindset and my courage and strength. So yes, it's important.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and obviously going into a fight with an internal motivation of someone that has passed on. There is, I mean, you could have the motivation from people that, friends, family that are still here. That's great. But I've gone into things with the motivation of my grandfather, who I was very close with. And that's when I felt like I was at my best at anything. When that person's on your mind, that's when you can focus in a whole new, completely different way. I know she's very proud of how you have approached things. I know that just based on how you have approached things within the sport of both Muay Thai and mixed martial arts. As a true mixed martial artist, I think that's what's most fascinating is not just how a fighter is within their sport. I think you can watch that and see the talent, see the speed, power, strength, but in terms of what brought them there, that's the stuff that I am fascinated by, and that's what I wanted to try to illuminate in this interview with you, Ashley. I really appreciate you hopping on. I'm really looking forward to your fight with Hillary Rose, and I expect to see a great fight from you. I look forward to possibly meeting you at the event. That'd be great.
Thank you so much for your time, and yeah, looking forward to representing on LFA 125. Everybody come check out the fight if you can. If not, UFC Fight Pass. It's on UFC Fight Pass.
Yes, it is. UFCFightPass.com. Subscribe if you can't make it out. If you can make it out, I will be there. Of course, Ashley's going to be there. She's going to be putting some fists on her opponent. So I really appreciate you, Ashley, hopping on. Thank you for your time, and good luck, and get here safe. It's snowy right now, so get here safe.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Take care.
You too. Thanks. Bye.
Ashley Nichols joining me on the Thomas Take Sports podcast. What an awesome interview. She was, I feel like, inspired by these men and women that are hopping on here. I feel like I could run up a hill right now, which, I mean, I normally don't feel like I could do that. But when I talk to men and women that are within the sport, that understand where they are at as far as their career and what this next fight means to them, there was a lot to take away from that as far as her belief and balance and it being needed in life and mental and physical and emotional balance, what Ashley Nichols does to prepare herself for a big fight, not just a big fight, but just her every day-to-day life for the stability of her mental health. That's very important right now. I mentioned the fact that, we're at a point in time where mental health has always been important, but beyond this pandemic, things have been very tough for all of us. And to lay out how she balances her life and mental, physical, and emotional well-being, that was very inspiring as well. She's representing something that's very, very powerful, and martial arts and how it's benefited her and how it's changed her life. Next up on the show, I got Michael Stack. He is a featherweight with a 6-1 record. He's taking on Kao Gregorio, who is 7-3 at LFA 125. Michael Stack is a 155-pound champion of Sparta Combat League as well. He won that a couple years back, and his ultimate career goals. We're going to talk about that, where he sees himself as we wrap up the LFA 125 Fighter Interviews show on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. I had Solomon Renfro joining me on the show. I had Ashley Nichols, and I had Michael Stack joining me on the show in a little bit here. I'm going to try to obviously really get a sense of each fighter's journey, as I have, I think, with some of the questions that I've asked these fighters. And realistically, this is one that I'm really excited for because Michael Stack is a solid, legitimate MMA prospect as a featherweight. And I feel like the featherweight division needs guys like him for its future. To have a guy like that stands out. He's got the Luke Rockhold vibes that are just ringing loud. Obviously, his relationship with his coaches and how that's evolved over the course of his career. I look forward to talking to him about that and much, much more. Ashley Nichols, very inspiring stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing her fight against Hillary Rose. This is Ashley Nichols' first fight in a couple years. So to hear where she's at mentally heading into a fight, heading into doing something that she hasn't done in a little bit of time, it's very, very motivating to hear an athlete speak about their athletic career and moving forward. There he is, Michael Stack. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Great. Thank you for joining me. I was just giving the audience a little bit of an intro to you and your career and heading into this fight, man. You got 6 days left in terms of your preparation for Cal Gregorio at LFA 125. Mike, thanks for joining me on the show. I want to talk to you about your MMA journey heading into this one. You're coming in this one with a record of 6-1, featherweight, 145. You've accomplished quite a lot at 155 pounds. I'd like to talk to you about just how you have changed, first and foremost, your physique dropping that 10 pounds to make an impact at 145 for LFA. How has that transition been for you?
Well, as an amateur, I fought 155, and then my first two pro fights I fought at 155.
155.
And to make that weight cut was never that difficult. Honestly, I was eating like normal all the way up to day of the fight, and then do a little, or not the day of the fight, the day of weigh-ins, and then I do a little bit of a water cut, get that weight down, and it come off pretty easily. So after seeing how easily I was able to make 155, I was like, let's see if we can go to 145, and that's obviously a little bit harder of a cut for me. I have to make sure that I'm dieting throughout the fight camp, eating right. I hire a nutritionist to help me with all that stuff, though. So, yeah, I mean, it's not the easiest weight cut to get to 145 versus 155, but we're able to make it. It's not bad.
Right. So as far as your diet, what does that consist of as far as just the adjustments that you've made from 155 to 145?
To me, it really doesn't seem like that big of a difference because I'm always eating chicken. I'm always eating ground beef, eggs, ground turkey, things like that. And then broccoli, greens and vegetables. So it's really not much of a difference, except I'm not eating out. I'm not eating like hot wings and burgers and,
Right.
like fatty foods. It's pretty clean and lean.
That's good.
For the most part, just to make it there. But after that, man, after the fight, I'm going back to hot wings. I think chicken wings are my favorite. You know what I mean?
I was just about to say, I mean, you're coming to Seneca Niagara for the fights. Once you get that W, you got to celebrate with some chicken wings. I can make a few suggestions for you if needed. I'm here for that.
Oh, really? Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I honestly, I'm a big wing guy, and
Are you?
I
Wow.
want to count that. Like, I credit that to fighting, because I growing up, I had never really had hot wings or anything like that. My buddies invited me to go watch the UFC fights at Buffalo Wild Wings, and ever since then, I've always been a wing guy. And Buffalo Wild Wings is like, they're good, but they're not even the greatest, the best wing spot. And since then, I've branched out and really got a taste for
That's
wings.
really awesome. Yeah, I would say Buffalo Wild wings compared to actual wings from within Western New York, Buffalo, New York. You'll never want Buffalo Wild Wings again. Once you have once you have wings from around here, whether it's Duff's or Anchor Bar, one of those two, solid choices. So I'll make those suggestions for you on the show. Michael Stack, after a W, is going to be eating either Duff's or Anchor Bar. One of those.
Yeah, man. You know, I forgot. New York is known for their wings, aren't they?
They are. Buffalo specifically. They invented the chicken wing. So
look at that.
Yeah. So
that's why it's Buffalo wings, huh?
Yes. Yeah. So that's obviously awesome for you after a win to enjoy those. I wanted to talk to you too a little bit about just some of your goals within your career. You're fighting at LFA 125, February 25th, Seneca Niagara Casino. It's the next step up in your career. The next fight is always as big as the last one for you. And you know, where do you see yourself? Where does Michael Stack see himself as far as that's when you'll know you reached your ultimate goal? What would that be?
Well, I think that would be the UFC belt around my waist, you know, after a championship fight. And, you know, I think that as far as the level of fighter I am right now, I think I am UFC level. I think that my skills are capable of competing and beating some of the best in the world. I know that I still have some work to get to that championship, that level, but I don't think that I couldn't hang with anyone in there. I think I go in there and I'll be a great fight, and, you know, I can win a ton of those top level fights as well, you know. So
for what it's worth, I would agree. I see a very athletic, fast, strong, well-rounded fighter in you, a compliment to the training and the skill set that you've actually not just cultivated but expanded upon and evolved upon. I think that's the name of the game, right? Within MMA, it's go in with the skills that you have and try. Obviously, it sounds very simple the way I'm putting it, but try to evolve those to the point where you're so well-rounded. That's the key. In your opinion, would you say as well that you're trying to be as well-rounded a fighter as you can heading into every fight?
Absolutely. I mean, the ceiling's infinite in this sport, right? So there's always something to improve on. There's always something to be better at. And there's so many aspects to the game. There's so many different qualities to MMA that you can never really be a master at it, which means you can constantly improve your entire life or your entire career. And I think that, you know, with any, actually, you know, if you look at any industry or any type of career path or whatever you choose to go into, you know, whether you're an artist or whatever, you can always improve on your game. And I think you'll never reach perfection. And that's kind of like a blessing in a sense, because you get to always strive and always get to improve on your craft. And so I absolutely agree with you. Like, yes, we want to be striving for perfection always, even though we may never reach it, but that's part of the journey, right?
So. Right. Yeah, and I like the way you put that you're never perfect. You're always working towards just being better, a better version than the last version of yourself in your case, in each fight. You want to be better than your last performance, which you've had a lot of really great performances over the course of your young career. You're 27, right? And you're getting closer and closer to what is seen as a fighter's prime is like 30 and, you know, beyond that early 30 period. So you're not even, I wouldn't even say you're in your prime yet. And yet you're showing a skill set that is catching everyone's attention. Do you listen to the compliments? Do you listen to what people are saying about you within the fight game? Or do you try to kind of turn away and say, no, I got plenty of room to grow. I got plenty of things I need to accomplish before I give myself any sort of credit like that?
You know, to be honest with you, man, growing up, always, I've kind of been in a mindset where I'm kind of in a tunnel, you know, I'm always just focused. I appreciate people giving me compliments, and I accept them, and, you know, I'm grateful for that. But, to me, I know that I can always improve, And I know that this game is a humbling game, and
Right.
man, I'm training with killers every day. I'm not winning every single time in practice. Like I'm doing my best to improve every day in practice, and I do win a lot, but not every single time am I out there kicking everyone's butt, right? So that's part of the sport, is being humble, because it is a humbling sport, right?
It is.
But look, man, that doesn't mean that I'm not confident and I don't know my skills, and I don't know that I can take some punches and give some beatings out if I have to, right?
Right.
And part of this sport is heart, and I know I have heart. I know that I'm in there to fight, and I'm in there to lay it on the line. And so as far as all the hype and everything, hey man, it is what it is. That it comes with the sport, comes with all the things that are important for promoting a fight, and that's great. I love that. But at the end of the day, man, it's only you and that guy in the cage, so you got to believe
Exactly.
in yourself.
Exactly. You unfortunately can't bring your training partners or your coaches in there in the octagon with you. They can sit outside of it, but at the end of the day, I think that's what makes combat sports just as special as any other sport, if not more special than any other sport, because it is all on you. You could take that from wrestling to Brazilian jiu-jitsu to boxing to kickboxing, and of course to MMA. I want to ask you too, every fighter has some sort of an inspiration as to who helped get them to envision themselves in that octagon. Who was that fighter for you that inspired you to really take part in starting a great MMA career as you've had, thus far?
I'd say it probably was my dad's influence a lot when I was growing up, right? So my dad, he boxed, and he was a street fighter himself. Kind of like he had a rougher childhood than I did. Thankfully, I grew up, not in the same way that he did, but he taught me, to stand up for myself, to give people passes, but to draw a line in the sand. And if they drop past that line, you got to stick up for yourself. So with that mentality growing up, I started to gravitate towards combat sports like wrestling, boxing, and things like that. And I, get in a couple of street fights, realize you like this, it's a fun, it's fun to compete. And I think that fighting itself is probably the purest sport as far as like man versus man, right? Like if you beat me in a foot race, well, all right, you're faster than I am. But if I beat you in a fight, I beat you. You know what I mean? So it's you're really putting everything on the line. And so it's high risk, high reward. That's why I like this sport.
Yeah, and I remember that even, dating back to my years in high school, when I would win a wrestling match, it was like the kid wouldn't even look at me. Where if I beat him in like a foot race, it was like, okay, we can just race again. You know what I mean? It's very it's a different way of demoralizing someone if you're able to beat them in a combative arena, I guess I could say. But I mean, what's that?
Oh, I was going to say, which, by the way, is why I think sportsmanship is so important in this sport, right?
It is.
Because you got to understand, man, we've all been humbled in that way, whether it was in the beginning of our career or as we're going through training all the time. You're not going to always be the best guy in the room. Sometimes you just have off days. Sometimes, there's just guys that have been more experienced and better than you, or they got a technique or a style that's different than yours and doesn't match up well. That's why I like when I see guys treat each other with respect in this sport.
Me too. I think that's the most important part of mixed martial arts, because you're paying respect to your opponent, but you're also paying respect to those that came before you and that will come after you by reacting to a win or a loss that way. We can talk about how the sport has changed as far as how it's promoted. There's a lot of quote unquote trash talk. There's a lot of building up fights, Conor McGregor has changed the sport a lot in that way to kind of build the fights up, and Chael Sonnen before him. But as far as all that goes, it's all just a part of pre-fight stuff, and then the fight can take place, and all that is just out the window, because at the end of the day, you spent minutes in there putting your body on the line against somebody else. How does that kind of what have you I've read things that fighters have said. Daniel Cormier said he learned a lot about John Jones as a man from fighting him, knew that he wouldn't give up, so his respect for him changed a little bit. Maybe outside the cage, he didn't respect him, but inside the cage, the respect was there. Have you had experiences like that leading into a fight where maybe an opponent might have been a big trash talker, but then beyond the fight, you say, okay, we just spent 15 minutes or more in there with one another, and it's time to just close the book on that?
In my career as a cage fighter, I've not really experienced too much of that. Most of my opponents have been respectful, very business minded, whereas like, hey, we're here to do this and get it done. As far as when it comes to like talking trash and all that, I don't necessarily mind it as far as the lead up goes, as long as after the fact, hey man, you can shake hands and be like, yeah, it's done, squash it afterwards. That's great, man. Cause like I said, everyone's been humbled, and we all know like bullies, I don't think last long in this sport. I don't think their egos can take it. Right. So a lot of fighters are genuine, sincere people inside. But for what you're saying though, I have come across certain fights growing up where I've gotten in some pretty serious altercations and good scraps, and like I learned a lot about that person. They learned a lot about me, and so I have experienced that. It's a different type of, I don't want to call it intimacy, but like learning somebody when you compete against them, because they're putting their whole heart and soul out there, and so are you. It's will versus will, and their will's strong as well. So if it's like two powerful forces meeting each other. It's pretty. That's what I can describe it as, or as I envision it, I suppose.
Two unstoppable forces meeting two immovable objects, I guess you could say, right?
They're
both one version of that. And that's what makes a great fight. That's what makes fighting, I think, whether it's MMA or boxing, just as beautiful as any other, just as beautiful as anything. That's true art to me. Mixed martial arts is true art. So you mentioned your dad being a big influence on you growing up in terms of your fighting journey. Was there a particular pro fighter that you looked at though and said, that's the guy that I would love to somewhat emulate or try to be over the course, try to have a career like he did or like she did over the course of your career?
As far as marketing and making money, Conor McGregor has done it the best, right? I think Israel Adesanya is doing a very well job at it right now. But when it comes to like just a particular fighter that I like and admire, they come and go, man. And there's so many different traits of fighters that you can take and point out. Like, for example, I love Max Holloway. I loved his style. And then you look at Jose Aldo. He hit guys, kicked them real hard. You know what I mean? Some of the things that he did. So Robert Whittaker used to be one of my favorite too, So guys that can Cowboy Cerrone, who will just take a fight all the time. He's just a fight guy, right? It doesn't matter when or where. He's like, yeah, I'll take that fight. So there's certain attributes of each fighter that I admire, and I would like, if I could create the perfect fighter, I would take attributes of all of those fighters and put them in one thing. But that's the great thing about watching and observing people and their careers, is you can do that as yourself. You can see and emulate what other people are doing and take from the good that they're all doing and abandon the bad that you're noticing, right? So, when I get to that level where everyone knows my name, I'm not going to go punch some old dude in a bar. right? Or throw a dolly through a bus.
You said it, not me. I'm thinking, I was thinking that, but I didn't say it. You said that, not me. No, but no, I agree with you. I agree. There's definitely things, from a sportsmanship standpoint, like if I was in your shoes, I'd say the same thing. I love that answer because most people always say, one fighter like George St. Pierre, and you could easily say that. That's a great, person to emulate, to try to aspire to be within the sport. That's a true mixed martial artist right there. But to take bits and pieces of everybody, then that's, pun intended, the ultimate mixed martial artist, ultimate fighter, you could say, right? Mm-hmm. so yeah. And as far as envisioning, yourself eventually as a UFC champion, you don't want to look ahead heading into any fight, but you're heading into a fight that you've trained really hard for. You've put the preparation in. You've worked really diligently with your training partners as well as your trainers, and you're firing on all cylinders. You're 6-1. You know your skills. You're knowing how you've evolved. But in saying all that, how close do you think you are in terms of making it to the UFC? And achieving that goal?
Well, I mean, let's put it this way: if I win this fight and win it spectacularly, get a finish or something crazy, it could be the very next fight. Right. It's crazy though. This game is very competitive. You got guys coming up all the time, and the promoters, the UFC, the matchmakers and stuff, they're looking for specific things, and they want, at the end of the day, this sport is entertainment, right? So they want entertaining fighters, and as an entertainer, that's my job to perform and put on that entertaining fight. So I think it could come any day, but that's up to me. I got to make sure that I'm throwing on good fights, and I got to perform to my best ability and make sure that people want to tune in and see what I'm doing, right? So yeah, I mean, any day. I'm expecting any day to answer the question.
I like that answer because it's respectful to the process, respectful to the fact that, there's work to be done, but it's up to you to get it done heading into this one. And I think, from watching your career and how you've evolved and how you've climbed up the ladder, moving into this fight 6 days away, LFA 125, Seneca Niagara Casino, how excited are you to just get back in there and just showcase your skills in front of, the Seneca Niagara audience?
Man, I actually am really excited. I love traveling. I love going out there and seeing new places. So that's going to be fun. But I'm excited to compete, man. I'm excited to put my heart on the line and my skills on the line and compete against a competitive, tough dude, right? So, yeah, man, I'm excited. I'm excited to just get in there and fight. That's what I'm here for. Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited.
And all the training that you've done, this is the reward, right? This is the reward after all the hard work you put in.
Absolutely. The fight is the reward, man. This is this is showing what I have been working for, and I get to show it, prove it.
That's awesome. As far as where you're training out of, are you still out in Colorado?
I am. So in Colorado, I train at a few different gyms. Trials Mixed Martial Arts with Ryan Schultz is my home gym. Then I travel down to High Altitude Mixed Martial Arts in Denver, and also Pound for Pound with Justin Houghton. So I'm like making 2 hours plus of driving time, every day, right? So I'm doing a lot of driving, and but this is my dream. This is my full-time job. I do some training with clients and stuff like that. I have personal training and things of that sort. But right now, this is my main focus, and I'm going to do what I need to do to excel in my career,
Right. And prior to your MMA career starting, Were you involved in any sort of combat? I wanted to kind of get your background on that too. Were you wrestling? Were you
Right.
boxing? You were doing all those things, right?
I was wrestling. So in high school, I knew, I was like, man, I want to fight, so I better learn how to wrestle. Everyone had told me that wrestling's the best base. I ended up
Right.
getting into wrestling sophomore year of high school, so I only wrestled for 3 years. And then I also played football and I swam. So swimming, man, now that one, that's a preparation right there. That's
brutal.
Get your lungs going, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I actually learned how to swim on the swim team. I didn't know how to swim. For a while, I thought that I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. I read Lone Survivor by Marcus Luttrell in my freshman year.
Story.
Yeah, it was a great story. I actually met Danny Dietz and his family, his brother and his father, and did some workouts with them. And I was like, man, maybe I want to be a Navy SEAL, so I better learn how to swim. But, I think the military lifestyle is not really my lifestyle. I don't like being told what to do and like, being under certain rules, or some people like that structure. I like the more freedom of doing whatever I want. And I was like, I'm going to be a fighter. So from that point on, that's what I went with. And after I graduated, I went and started training at Grudge is what it was called. It was Justin Gaethje's gym with Trevor Whitman. And then that actually turned into Genesis, and Whitman ended up retiring from the gym game and just coaching select fighters like Justin Gaethje, Kamaru Usman, Rose Namajunas, because he's got his Onyx here sports equipment company as well. Right. He's a busy dude.
What was that? And that was my next question. What was that experience like? Training within that Grudge training center at that time, and working with some of those guys.
At 18 years old, my first liver shot that I've ever experienced in my life was from Pat Barry, the heavyweight in the UFC heavyweight. So, I never experienced what the pain of a liver shot is like. And that dude ripped one to the body real hard on me. And I understood, like, wow, no wonder people, like, I never really understood why people like caved in and fell down from body shots, because I'd never taken one that hurt that bad, but that was my first so
it doesn't look that hurt. It doesn't look that painful on TV, but if you experience it, the wind is just completely out of your lungs and you're dying on the ground, right? You're coughing and choking.
Imagine doing like crazy sprints, right? It feels like you just did sprints. It takes your cardio, and then the pain feels like you just got stabbed in the side. It's an interesting one. I like giving them out more than I like taking them. That's for sure.
That's for sure. Yeah, Pat Barry. What they have you doing messing with Pat Barry, a heavyweight? You were a lightweight featherweight. What's up with that?
Well, no,
a little bit of everything.
No,
right?
I think at that time I didn't realize how technical sparring and stuff goes. I was maybe a little bit, a rougher type of dude. So when I was going, well, I wouldn't say rougher. I'm still a rough dude, but I didn't know how to spar correctly at that time. So maybe they had put me with Pat Barry expecting, good sparring type session, and I might have been, putting that little extra bit on stuff, and he wanted to show me a little something. So, but no, I ended up learning pretty quick, and I've sparred with Justin Gaethje and some of their studs over there, and it made me who I am today, man. It's only helped. So
iron sharpens iron, right? You get the learning experience of training with someone like a Justin Gaethje, training with someone like a Pat Barry, onward and upward. Michael, I really appreciate you joining me on the show today. I'm really looking forward to seeing you compete at LFA 125. It's Friday, February 25th at Seneca Niagara Casino. Michael, I am rooting for you. I've followed you for quite some time, and I really appreciate you hopping on the show today for me.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. That's awesome, dude. I really appreciate it. And your show was great, man.
Thank you.
I had a good time being on here.
Thank you. Yeah, after the W, you can come back on. We'll celebrate. I want the full wing story. No matter where you went, I want to hear about it. So
right.
I'll touch base with you. Hopefully I can see you at the event.
Yeah, you're going to be there?
I'm going to be there. Yep. Media pass and all. I'm going to be there. So
hell yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So what kind of, when you go for your wings, what's your go-to flavor?
Oh man, that's tough. I like just a regular, like medium, just medium wings. That's fine. I mean, they got like honey barbecue, garlic parmesan. There's all sorts of.
I love garlic parmesan, spicy garlic.
Yep. You could really go crazy with it. Yeah, but that you should enjoy more than just a medium after the W. You're cutting weight, you're training. Once you get the W, get whatever you want.
So cheesecake maybe.
What's that?
Cheesecake maybe. New York cheesecake too, right?
They are. Yeah, they are known for their cheesecake too.
Buffalo wings and cheesecake.
There's a sandwich too. It's called a beef on wick. It's a roast beef sandwich. That's the next one that you got to check out.
My man.
For sure.
Ryan, I appreciate
it. Yeah, of course, Michael. I really appreciate you hopping on here. Good luck to you. I know you've trained really hard for this fight, and I look forward to seeing you showcase your skills on Friday night at Seneca Niagara Casino.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, buddy.
You too. Bye.
Bye. So, Michael Stack joining me on the Thomas Take Sports podcast, LFA 125. Michael Stack, one of the premier prospects at 145 pounds, fighting at LFA 125. I'm really looking forward to seeing him compete. Here's a guy that I feel is right there, along with Solomon Renfro, in terms of making it to the UFC. They're very, very close with these impressive fights coming up. One win could be it. You heard Michael Stack say it. One win is all I need in impressive fashion to capture the attention of one UFC president, Dana White. And there you have it. 125, LFA 125 fighter interviews. I had Salomon Renfro, Ashley Nichols, and Michael Stack on the Thomas Take Sports podcast. With that, I'm Ryan Thomas. Thanks for tuning into this special edition of the show. I greatly enjoyed it. You can find it on YouTube, Facebook, as well as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Take care, and hope to see you at the fights.